Most Americans believe that the media have a liberal bias, and the Media Research Center proves it every day. The Media Research Center, America's media watchdog.
The State Department Special Envoy for Climate Change, Todd Stern, held a briefing here at the State Department to discuss his recent trip to the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Cancun, Mexico. Stern was asked about the United States' position on China with regard to reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
Our position on China is that China needs to make significant reductions in its emissions, but for China or other developing countries at this stage, those are going to be relative reductions. Those are going to be reductions against the so-called business as usual path that they would be on. So given when countries, whether it's China or India or others, are growing at 6, 8, 10%, you can't slam the brakes on completely and say you've got to be making absolute reductions tomorrow. It couldn't work, because don't forget, while the critical direction that we need to move on is to separate growth from the path of emissions, so that growth goes up but emissions can still go down because you've got so much of your energy coming from low carbon sources and so forth. At this stage in life, the movement of emissions is very linked to the movement of economic growth. So you're not going to get a Chinese economy growing at 10% to have a below zero reduction in emissions. But what you can have is a very significant reduction against what they would otherwise be doing. And so that is the focus, and that has been our focus consistently, and it's really the only rational focus that you could have.
Stern was also asked to comment on climate statistics cited by Professor Phil Jones of East Anglia University. He told BBC News that there has been no statistically significant global warming since 1995. What would be your reaction to that data? Would you agree or disagree with those findings?
Well, I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to comment, and I'm not familiar with exactly what he said. I think that if you look at the warming that has been recorded on a steady basis for over the last 20 years or so, you will see very significant rise in temperatures over time. We have, I think if you look at the last 20 years, you have something like the 15 or 18 warmest years in history having happened during that period. So I think there's a very, very broad consensus of scientists who see a marked warming trend, and again a very large percentage of scientists who study in this area who attribute that to human activity.
Now, Stern also says the United States will not sign on to reduce greenhouse gas emissions without commitments from other key nations. At the State Department, I'm Nicholas Balassi, CNSNews.com.